Hello my dear students, I hope you stay healthy. Now I am going to describe another part of the constitutional development of India, the Act of 1853. You know very well that I have told you so many acts under these chapters, and gradually I am trying to make you understand the important details of each and every act given under the constitutional development India. There is no need to make hurry, because if you read it very slowly and after clearing your concept, then you can realize the importance of these acts. Okay, so I have taught you so many acts concerned with the constitutional development of India. Till now I have finished the Regulating Act, the Act of Settlements, Pitt's India Act, the Act of 1786 and the Act of 1793, and the Act of 1813 and the Act of 1833. Now I am going to explain about the Act of 1853. You know that the East India Company came in India, and the East India Company increased the hope of a British Crown to control over India. As we know that the company came only as a trading company, but with a due course of time, the companies started trying to control over the India. In other words, the company started to maintain their rule in India after the approval of British Crown, because in 1833 the company's trading activity had been abolished and the company was converted into an administrative body. It means after 1833 the ruling of the East India Company was started in India, and after that, to bring some reform and to increase the accountability and effectiveness of the East India Company, British government had introduced another important act, which is known as the Act of 1853. Now it has been displayed before you. Okay, I will display it. This is the Charter Act of 1853. I am going to explain about this Charter Act, which is before you. And during that time, the Governor General was Lord Dalhousie. This is the image of Lord Dalhousie. And during that time, the Governor General was Lord Dalhousie. Okay. So now let us start. We will study each point of this act, which is very important. I have started this class for the purpose of both who are preparing for SSC, UPSC, CDS, CAPF, for all purpose. That's why I am teaching you in a very relaxed manner. Okay, so you should also enjoy this lecture to enhance your knowledge, and with due course of time you will realize that how much you have explored yourself after teaching, after studying these acts. Okay, now I will mention you important points of the Charter Act of 1853. The first important point was that indefinite renewal of the East India Company Charter. This is the first point. The first point was that indefinite renewal of the East India Company Charter. What does it mean? What does it mean that indefinite renewal of the East India Company Charter? As you know that in 1833, company was given the responsibility of ruling in India. It means the company was in 1833, the company was converted into an administrative body from the trading body. Now, through this act, the companies ruling time had been extended for indefinite period. It means the company's ruling time had been extended. But the question is, was there limit for the ruling activity of the company? No. The company's ruling authority were extended, but without unspecified time. It means the company will rule over India, but how long? It has not been mentioned. In other words, we can say through this act, the company's ruling activity had been renewed, but with no specific time period. It means indirectly we can say Parliament has mentioned that there is no specific period, there is no specific time period for the ruling of the company in India. It means it can be terminated by Parliament anytime. You know very well. In fact, the company's ruling activity had been renewed, but not with a specific time period. It means the Parliament can take the power of ruling activity of the company anytime. It means now company's activity was totally under the control of British Parliament. And this was the first point I have make you clear. Now another second point was that introduction of civil services. What is the meaning of introduction of civil services? Try to make a link between the Act of 1853 and the Act of 1833. So try to make a link between the Act of 1833 and the Act of 1833, because this point is also linked up with the Act of 1833. So the question is arise here, sir, what is the link of this point with the Act of 1833? Keep in mind, I have told you in previous class, in the Act of 1833, there was a provision that there should not be discrimination in civil services on ground of race, religion, caste, gender and place of birth. And there was also suggestion given under the Act of 1833 that there should be an open competition started. An open competition should be started to recruit the ICS officers in the company, but it was strongly opposed by the East India Company. That's why the Act of 1833, that's why the proposal of the Act of 1833 could not be implemented due to the strong opposition of the East India Company. But now it was going to implement under the Act of 1853. In Act of 1853, it was clearly mentioned that now the ICS officers would be recruited on ground of open examination, not on the recommendation of Board of Control. Whatever provision has been mentioned in 1833, but it could not be implemented due to the strong opposition of the East India Company. Now it was again repeated in this act that the company's officer would be recruited on the ground of open examinations. And the open examination was started in 1855. So you can realize that through every act, British government trying to impose their own condition on the East India Company somehow or the other. It means that every act give you a reflection of increasing the British control over the company, and it is decreasing the power of East India Company. In fact, British Crown started to control India through East India Company, but with a Due course of time, through a various act, British Crown had also tried to take the power of the East India Company and tried to superimpose the British government power on East India Company. You will realize in 1858, the company's ruling activity will be abolished totally. But gradually, all these were happening keeping in mind the long-term policy. That's why it could not be wrong to say that whatever British Crown was doing, it was doing keeping in mind the long-term policy. And it is a well-known fact. The person who take a step keeping in mind a long-term plan, he will get success someday or the other. If you had a plan for a long term and you are taking a step according to your plan, someday or the other you will get success. The activity without plan can't be fruitful. How much you give your effort, how much give your best, but if you had no plan, your activity will be futile, will be waste. That's why these act also give us a lesson that whatever we want to do, we should do with a proper plan, as Crown is doing. Crown has thought that what we have to do in future. That's why through every act he is trying to superimpose his rule and control over the East India Company, but not at once, gradually, with patience. So now we come to the another point. This is the another major point of this act. This is the first point, this is the second point, and now we come to the third point. I will mention the point third. This is third point. Separation of judiciary, separation of power. Sir, what kind of separation? Now the question arises, what kind of separation is here? Separation means, now as I told you already, that in 1833, the Governor General, I will mention you in this slide, perhaps I have been mentioned. Now try to make a link between all these acts. Don't try to memorize the act. Always try to understand and make the realize each and every point of these acts. And after realizing and understand the concept of each act, you will be able to think in constitutional aspect. So first, now I will try to make you remember that in 1833 I have mentioned that the Governor General has and his council was given power to make a law for whole India. This point is connected with the Act of 1853. You know very well that in 1833 Governor General was given power to make a law for whole India. It means Governor General had given power of both executive power and legislative power. But in 1853, it has been mentioned that the executive power and legislative power should be separate. It means there should be a separate legislative under the Governor General to make a law, and this separate legislative is known as Indian Legislative Council. It is the origin of Indian parliamentary system. First time we see seats of parliamentary system in 1853 Act, which means now there was a provision to establish a separate judiciary to make, separate legislative to make a law for the India under the East India Company. Now this was the Legislative Council. Now the Governor General will handle, now within the Governor General there would be a separate executive and there should be a separate legislative council. Now compare these point with today. There is also a separate judiciary and separate legislative. Legislative make a law and executive, sorry, sometime I have told you judiciary. So judiciary has nothing to do with this act. I have mistakenly spoken judiciary. So avoid it. There will be two terms, executive and legislative. It means you should compare with today. As today, there is a separate executive and separate legislative. Legislative make a law and executive execute the law. In the same way, this system was started in 1853. It means now under the Governor General, there should be separate executive and separate legislative. It means executive would make a law, executive would execute the law, and legislative would make the law. And today these executive has been turned into a parliament. So if I ask you a question, in which act we find the glimpse of parliamentary system in India, now you can say this is the act of 1853, and the name of this legislative was Central Legislative Council. Okay, I have mentioned you clearly. Very important. You should know from where the origin of parliament we find in the act of 1853, as I have mentioned. Okay. So another question you can ask, sir, who was the member in legislative council? Now I have written it. Actually, you should not pay attention in this act. It has been wrongly reflected. It has nothing to do with today's lecture. Now the question arises, who was the member in legislative council which has been made in 1853? Now you should not memorize, but you should keep in mind that the member of the legislative council was, the member was the legislative council was Governor General Executive Council member and other members who would be nominated and elected. It means there should be a separate legislative council to make the law. Okay. Now we come to the another point is that introduction of local representation. It means the Charter Act of 1853 introduced local representation in the Indian Legislative Council for the first time. 4 of the 6 new legislative members of the Governor General Council were appointed by the local governments of Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. Another important point is that there was a separate legislative council which consists of the executive member of Governor General, the member of Executive Council of Governor General and others members, and also the member in Legislative Council would also be appointed from the local representation. It means they would be appointed from the Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. 4 of the 6 new. It means among the 6 members, 4 members of the Governor General Council were appointed by the local governments of Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. It means first time we find a local representation, and this local representation were later changed into a local self-governance. So the question also arises, in which act we find the first time of local representation in Governor General Executive Council? This was the Act of 1853. This is the another important point of this act. Now, another point was that, so I have mentioned you 3 points. Try to keep in mind slowly. The company's ruling power has been renewed without any specific time period. It was provision that the company's officer would be recruited on the ground of open competition. And the third point is that there was a separation from executive and legislative. A separate law-making body was made under the Governor General, which was known as Legislative Council, and this Legislative Council would consist of the member of Executive Council of Governor General and the other members. Okay, and the first time we find that the introduction of local representation, it means 4 of the 6 new legislative members of the Governor General Executive Council were appointed by the local governments of Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. It means local governance was also given representation in Governor General Executive Council, or you can say they were also involved in Legislative Council. Now another point was that the reduced strength of Court of Directors. As you know, the East India Company was being controlled by Court of Directors, whose number was 24. But through this act, the number of members in Court of Directors reduced from 18 to 24. 18 to 24. I will clearly mention, it has not been written here. I will write it. 24 to 18. 24 to 18. Okay. 24 to 18. I have not found a correct color. Oh, this is the. It will reflect clearly. Again, is there any problem? Six. The number of members in Board of Control has been reduced. Sorry, Court of Directors, not Board of Control. In Court of Directors has been reduced from 24 to 18. It means the power of Court of Directors has been reduced. It means the Court of Directors, who was responsible to handling the company, and the Court of Directors consist of 24 members. Now it has been reduced from 24 to 18, and the 6, and out of 18, the 6 to be nominated by the Crown. 6 would be nominated by the Crown. Here we can also find the Crown has also appointed their own person. As you know, in each and every act, Crown has tried to control the company's activity. You will find that in 1784, the British government had established a board of control to control the company's management. And now, in Court of Directors, there will be a 18 member, and out of 18, 6 to be nominated by the Crown. It means in each and every level, the control of the company was going to be taken from the Court of Directors. how gradually the everything is going on in a systematic way, and the result will, and you will see a great result in 1858. The court of directors and board of control will be abolished completely, and the company will come under, and the India will come under the control of crown. Okay. So in this act, I have tried to make you understand the importance of 1853 Act. And there is another point which has not been mentioned here. I will try to show you that under the Act of 1853, under the Act of 1853, again the post of governor was created in Bengal. Post of governor was created in Bengal. You know very well that in 1773, the governor of Bengal was changed into Governor General of Bengal. But now again, in 1853, the post of governor was again created. It means there will be a Governor General also, and under the Governor General, there will be a Governor General of Bengal. Now it would be very easy to make a difference between Governor General of Bengal and Governor of Bengal. Now the Governor of Bengal would work under the Governor General of Bengal like the other presidency's governor. Okay? It means in every act the responsibility and the power of Governor General has been increased, and the British Parliament had tried to impose their own condition on the East India Company. I hope you have understood it clearly, and in next lecture I will make you understand the another act concerned with this topic. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, and I will come with a new lecture again. Thank you very much.